Assalamu alaikum, guys. It's me, Salam Sabi. Wow, it's been a pretty busy couple of weeks. I started a new job, alhamdulillah. That really cheered me up. And also, I just have other plans and things that I've been writing down and changes, inshallah, that I'll be able to make in my life. Um, this video is about Muslim men who you should avoid. I mean, if you see them, run the other way and don't accept their marriage proposals, because that's usually it's going to lead to trouble in the long run. The first Muslim man that you should stay away from. Now, I'm not saying in all cases, but only when certain signs come up. And hold on. That is the foreign Muslim man. This does not apply to all foreign Muslim men, so please don't apply this to all Muslim men. If the brother has been here in the United States and all he has is a visa or an expired visa, you may want to think a little harder about marrying this man. If he has a green card, but his green card is about to expire in a few years or in a few months or a few weeks and he hasn't even applied for his citizenship, you may want to take a second look at this brother. Third, you can't verify any of his information because he came from a foreign country. So he could be absolutely lying to you. So it's real easy to fall into the trap of the foreign husband, especially for sisters who are reverts. And we fall for the foreign Muslim because he was raised in an Islamic environment. He probably practices Islam better, and that's another issue. Cultural Islam. He may practice Islam in a completely different way. Now, I had a personal experience. There was a Nigerian brother who was interested in me like last year. Well, after holding a very deep conversation with him, and this is before I even thought about marriage or anything like that, he was very sexist. And this does not apply to all Nigerian men, but he came off as a very nice man. Oh, sister, oh, you can stay home, you don't have to do this, you don't have to do that. He was making too many promises, and that's another guy that you need to watch out for, but I'll talk about him later. And he had some very sexist views. Sexist in a way where he was like, well, I expect my food to be cooked at so and so time, and I expect my sex at so and so. And a man, yes, I know I'm bringing up some crazy stuff, but he didn't say my sex, but he was like, if I'm in the mood, I expect my wife to be in the mood too, because it says in the Quran that if you refuse your husband, then the angels will curse you or whatever. And I was like, okay, no. Next. The other guy you should look out for is the guy who makes all of the promises. Oh, mashallah, sister, I'll buy you a car, I'll buy you a house, I'll pay for you to attend college, I'll kiss your feet, I'll buy you an expensive bedroom set, I'll buy you expensive furniture, whatever you want, clothes, beautiful hijab. And then once you marry him, yeah, he buys you a car, but he buys you a used car that breaks down in 2 months. Yeah, he buys you clothes, but it's like once every 6 months. He promised you a house. Well, you're staying in the hood in a really dangerous area. And that beautiful furniture that he promised you, he bought it from Salvation Army. So yeah, he kept his promise, but he didn't keep it exactly how he said he would. So that's a little bit crazy to me. I'm not saying now if you marry someone and you know his financial situation and you accept it, then that's perfectly fine. If you're willing to go through that struggle with him, and of course Allah, subhanahu Allah, he will, bless your marriage, because a good wife will stand by her husband. But a man who was deceitful or deceptive towards the woman who he wanted, and lying about all of the things that he would give her, then there's the abuser. And we know the abuser can either be physically or emotionally abusive, or he can be both. There's all types of abuse. I think sometimes we forget that emotional abuse is just as scary as physical abuse, especially when people claim to know their religion and they use hadiths and Quran to manipulate you and to make you do things that you may know is wrong. So those type of people, I forgot what you call someone who can recite the Quran. Is it called a caliph, a quali? I can't remember. But we all know that person who actually memorizes the whole Quran. I've heard stories about a lot of people who have that talent who abuse their wives. So there's no excuse. If you know the Quran, you should be able to also understand it. Reciting it won't save you from the hellfire, because all you are, it's like being a tape recorder. All a tape recorder does is repeat what you said, but it doesn't have a brain. It doesn't necessarily, it's not learning anything. Its only job is to record what you're saying. And there's a lot of people who know the Quran, but they don't understand it. And they're practicing cultural Islam. And then they abuse that power. And they manipulate you, and they control every aspect of your life. They force you to wear niqab. They force you to stop working. They force you to have all these kids that you didn't even want. They force you into polygyny. They do things that you have certain rights to say, no, I don't want to do this. And then you have the man who doesn't even respect women. He thinks that punching you in your face and beating you is going to get things done, because of course, it's allowed in the Quran, and he can hit you, and women are babies and weak, and so, which we all know that's not even the proper interpretation. So, but people use that, to abuse women. And then there's the guy who seems perfect. Oh yes, that's my favorite one. The guy who's really cool. And the guys I'm talking about now, they usually show signs. So like even before you marry them and stuff like that, there's usually signs, like little signs that he's not perfect. Then of course there's that guy who starts off perfect, and slowly and slowly and slowly he starts to crumble, and he starts to show you who he really, really is. And be careful. The brother who has a lot of kids. I'm sorry, I'm just gonna be real with you. The brother who has a lot of kids will never be on my list. If you got 6 kids, my number stops at 1. If you have 1 kid, cool. But 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, no. Maybe if I'm older, and your kids are like grown and on their own, of course. But like as a young woman, no. Because usually I've noticed this, it's either they're taking care of their kids or they're not. So usually a sign of a lot of kids is a sign of more than one marriage. Again, the brother who's been married several times, they This also applies for the sister who's been married several times, but stories vary. But if a brother has a history, I've heard of people being married 3, 4 times before they even turn 30. If this person is repeatedly getting married over and over, he may not be the wisest choice. He may not be the smartest decision. And I've seen this. Most of those people, they have halal boyfriends and girlfriends. They basically marry you to have sex. And once that's over, after a few years, they get tired of you, eventually they drive you crazy, and he either asks for a divorce or he'll run and marry another woman and you'll leave. This person is just as promiscuous as a man who is single. He's just using Islam as a tool to marry as many women as he wants. If a man has several marriages under his belt, I don't care how religious you are, can't do it. Next. There's another type of man. Oh, the overly religious man. This also connects to controlling and manipulation. Someone who will never let you get a word in. He knows everything. He knows everything about hadiths. He knows everything about Quran, and you don't know what the hell you're talking about. No, I don't need my husband to dress like the prophet, may peace and blessings be upon him, from 1,000 years ago. I don't need that. I need you to dress like a normal person. It's fine if you want to dress differently when we go to the masjid, but I don't need you wearing a sheet over your head and all of this extra stuff. I don't need that, okay? Let me see. What other? Oh, hip-hop Muslims. Yeah, hip-hop Muslims, like hood Muslims, like, baggy pants, assalamu alaikum. Now, this doesn't apply to all of them. It's just some. So whoever is the assalamu alaikum, that's perfectly fine. I mean, if it's you, if you're on your deen, fine. But if a dude is talking about he's on his deen, but he has club pictures on his Facebook, and he's like spazzing out in all his pictures, and he's posing next to half naked women and pit bulls, and he's always out on the street, and no. And usually a lot of those brothers have a lot of kids, and they've been married before, so it's best to stay away from the hip hop. Even though he's kind of sexy, he's gonna drag you straight into the hellfire. So let's move away from that. And the stereotypical Middle Easterner, the one who loves to hate American women. Like he's like, oh, you do not need to cover, and then he changes his mind. He's like, oh no, if you're my wife, you have to cover. But you guys are sleeping with each other even before marriage. He always has contradicting things to say about Western culture, but he largely ignores the major faults in his own culture. Another type of man I think you should, I just have a long, men in general can do some trifling things, also females, and I'm also going to have one about females, so it's not just aimed at men, it's also aimed at women. Oh my goodness, ladies, the mama's boys. I've heard too many stories. If he is a mama's boy, sometimes it works out, but I believe the vast majority, especially if you're a revert wife and you're living with a Muslim family, especially a culturally Muslim family, there's going to be some serious issues. If the man is still attached to his mother's chest, he's still a baby, please don't get involved in that. What usually ends up happening is the mother runs the house, and all of the abuse that she's experienced, she's going to take it out on you. This doesn't always apply, but I've seen this happen, so be very careful. The Muslim brother who seems to practice, but he really doesn't practice, which is a lot of Muslims. He's not really practicing. I mean, he's cool. I mean, he's a decent husband, but he doesn't even really pray. Which, to me, if you stop doing everything else, you have to try to get some of your prayers in. I know you may not get them in all the time, but you have to try to get most of them in. So, sometimes he's a cool husband, and sometimes he's not. Because if he's not on his deen, then he's out on the streets on top of another female. So this does not apply to all Muslims. But anyways, okay, it's been like 15 minutes, and I'm trying to think of other types of Muslims that you need to be very careful of. Really, when you're looking for a husband, usually people will throw you signs. That's why I don't believe in marrying someone and you've only known them for a month. I just don't. I'm sorry. I've seen too many marriages end in divorce because they did not know that person well enough. It's also really important to have a good wakil, you know, to interview and to find out what's going on. Have your father, your uncle, a scholar, somebody to help weed out these scallywags, these bums, these fakers, these abusers, these crazy foreign Muslims. Just somebody to weed them out. If you can't check somebody's background, then don't marry them. And that applies if he's from out of state and he can't verify anything, or if he's from a foreign country and he can't verify anything, you're taking a huge risk. Okay, guys, it's been 16 minutes, and I will have the female version too. Okay, assalamu alaikum.